Hey, what's going on? This is Jay Farrell. You listening to the Hard NOC Life podcast. What up, though?
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard NOC Life. Comics, movies, and TV. Yeah. Pop culture.
Hard NOC Life is back.
Is it? Okay.
Now I'm Keith.
I'm Dominic. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, it's a time.
You know, I don't know. I was gonna make some snide comment about how JD Vance murdered the Pope, but
Which we don't know he didn't. Let's just
I don't know. We have to be careful what we say now and put out there on the internet.
yeah, but also there's no due process, so we can throw him in jail.
That's why I have to be careful of what I say out there on the internet.
Right, we could be thrown in jail too, but that's the thing. Without due process, just bleh. But we don't know he didn't.
Speaking of sinners,
Anyway,
I'm gonna preface this
man, I
podcast.
really wish I'd seen Sinners over the weekend. But go on.
This is the Monday after Sinners made like $60 million at the box office. One of the biggest movies of the year. I have not seen it. Dominic, you have not seen it.
No, I haven't. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, I know it's great. It's a Ryan Coogler movie, so that by default, it's a great film.
The
I
guy's
have
right
not
on.
yet seen it, so we will not talk about Sinners. I just don't go to horror movies. I'm a
Oh, a squeam? I'm a squeam too.
Yeah, I'm squeamish that way. This is also why I have not actually caught up on The Last of Us. So we will not be talking about mushroom zombies and we will not be talking about vampires
Yeah.
on
that's
this
okay.
episode, where those are probably the two biggest things out right now. We're going to focus on a show that ended a week ago and some other sundry things for this episode of Hard NOC Life. So we're going to be not in the zeitgeist, but talking about the stuff that you and I care about.
Yeah, okay. We're slightly behind on the gross mushroom zombies and Southern Gothic vampire allegories. Sorry, America. Like, we're just not on top of all the horror fantasies. But
Are you a Last of Us guy? Did you play the games?
well, I play the video games, and I'm not so into the TV series, although I like the idea. But again, it's a little too visceral much for me. I enjoyed playing video games, but it gets really brutal, and and it's like I can see Pedro Pascal in like 8 other things too. Like that guy is
Yeah.
everywhere.
Which is actually the segue I was going to use, because the other things that happened over the last week was, one, Celebration happened in Japan. Our girl Lauren Lola was out there in Tokyo at
Great,
Star Wars Celebration.
great.
Pedro Pascal was there. They did reveal footage from the Mandalorian and Grogu, though they did not reveal that to the public.
Yeah.
You had to be in the room where it happened. There was a Pedro Pascal trailer that was revealed last week, though, that we did see on the internet, and that was for the Fantastic Four film, First Steps. We got like a story trailer this time. It wasn't just vibes. What did you think of the Fantastic Four trailer?
Yeah, first whole trailer. I'm into it. I'm interested in the Fantastic Four movie for several reasons, more than like I'm loving the idea of it, because they're not my favorite characters in the Marvel lore, but they're really interesting for a couple of reasons. Specifically in that trailer, we got the family dynamic. We saw Lady Silver Surfer show up. Very interesting. And I mean, when you say there's a story trailer, I didn't know if I absorbed so much story. Like I absorbed, oh, they're a family, and their Silver Surfer and Galactus shows up at some point. If I make the movie, I'm happy for Galactus to show up in the first 20 minutes, because I'm all about just like small superheroes fighting big giant kaiju character or anything. That's the thing I want to see in a superhero movie.
Sure.
But I assume there'll be some sort of origin story, and obviously there's some kind of like it's an alternate universe, or like set in a version of 1960s idyllic America, has that whole vibe. So there are a few questions of like, well, how do they start there and how do they get pulled into Marvel Universe proper? So for me, it was like a seeding the questions trailer rather than like story. And again, maybe I just know the basic story from the comics, which is Silver Surfer shows up and says, your planet's fucked, and then here comes Galactus, and oh wow.
Right. Well, and that's what I mean. I think it was like the first trailer was very much just vibes. It was like, here's the thing, making pasta. Here's Reed and Sue, and they love each other, and Johnny's a hothead, and boom, that's all you need to know. This, as you said, introduces the Silver Surfer. It introduces Franklin Richards, I guess, in a way,
Oh, you
because
mean?
Sue is pregnant in the,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and they reveal that piece. So they're going to be playing with those aspects of the, like, introducing the Fantastic Four pieces of lore that was not in the first trailer,
Right.
and yeah, story as much as it's able to be revealed, because we don't know, and we won't know how it ties into Doomsday. I hope it doesn't. I hope it really, like, at least the movie proper is just self-contained. Maybe the post credits will hint at the rest of the universe. But as we said in our last episode, I have a fear of a cinematic universe now, and the only thing that's appealing to me about Fantastic Four right now is that I don't need to do the homework.
It's not that part, right? No, I
Right.
understand. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, are we going with the working fan theory? And I'm not trying to, trigger your fear here, but are we going like, it seems like the most easy thing is like they have a whole adventure and it turns out they're just in another alternate universe. And at the end, Reed just opens up a cosmic portal as he does. He's the kind of guy who does that. And like,
Sure.
oh, now we're in the Avengers Earth now. I assume that's what's happening. I don't know if but that's like the easiest way to link those disparate things together. And also, I don't really care. Like,
Yeah.
whatever
I don't care about the link at this point.
I don't care what the mechanics of it. Whatever they do, it's gonna happen. Fine. I'm happy to see Galactus. I'm happy to see the Silver Surfer. There was some talk about like whether it's like real like retcon or gender bend. I think in like one version of the comics, it is the last survivor of Silver Surfer planets is the lady character, not the guy. I'm blanking on their alien names. There's
Norin
like
Rad and Shala Ball, I think, are
right.
their names.
In some versions, Shalabal and not Norrin Rad. So that's
Right.
not like some
Yeah, and
huge
everyone
retcon,
losing
but
their shit over like woke girl Silver Surfer are also people who've never read the comics and had no idea
yeah,
that a
like
female
you were
Silver
such
Surfer already
hardcore
exists.
Silver Surfer fans in the
Yeah,
first place. I don't
exactly.
know.
Like they didn't know until the movie came out. Until this trailer came out, no one even knew that there had ever been a female Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, Norrin Rad has a live action film already. Like there was a whole ass Fantastic Four movie with the Silver Surfer 10 years ago. So
He has had his time.
we don't
And
need that.
he looked darn cool. Yeah. Yeah, Silver Lady Surfer, totally down with it. If they ever get around to doing Silver Samurai, that would be weird. But that's a digression.
Are you cool with kind of small Galactus? Like, as you said, kaiju sized Galactus and not, planet eating sized Galactus?
What are you talking about? Look, Galactus's size is
I've just seen chatter on the internet where
kind of
people were
defined
like,
in lore.
he should be bigger.
No, he does not have to be bigger. Galactus is not that big.
How does he eat a planet then?
I'm
Goddamn.
not, guys. Galactus doesn't eat the planet like stuff it in his mouth like Unicron. He builds he arrives at the planet, um, and builds like a device. It's sort of like a cosmic Cuisinart on top of their major city, and the Cuisinart processes the planet into energy, which he swallows. Did you even read Galactus?
Do you even read, bro?
Do you even read Galactus comes to eat the Earth for like the 20th time and fails? Comic. I'm just for anyone who doesn't know. No, he's not bigger. He's not. I don't know if anyone's done a nice visual size chart of this. I don't think he's even as big as Godzilla. He's not as big as the Celestials. He's big. He's as big as like a small building, I think, in one of the mid-sized buildings in New York. He's not as big as a skyscraper, and he's definitely not as large as Celestials, because if we read, Earth X, we know he fights the Celestials, and he's a smaller giant against very big giants. Okay, was that
No, it's fine. I was just asking because I've seen the chatter, people saying that the Galactus we see in the trailer seems small, and I'm like, I don't know, he looks big enough to me.
That's
so.
even dumber than the gender
The
of
lady
the Silver Surfer thing. That's how
well,
big
again, I feel like
Galactus
people who
is.
bitch about comic book movies on the internet are not really. They claim to be like hardcore fanboys, and they really aren't. They just like to clickbait and engagement farm by being quote unquote outraged over whatever to get the views.
Absolutely. And I'll give them the grace on this one because it's a understandable misunderstanding to have if all you know about Galactus is you heard he's a guy who eats planets. If I just heard that, yes, I would assume he's at least half the size of a planet so he can take it in several chunks in his mouth. You have to be a certain level of nerd to know. And, I think I saw the post you're referencing, and some other nerds have helped disambiguate this. So it's more, no, he doesn't, he's not planet size eats the planet. He's big enough to come to your city and build his cosmic Cuisinart, and it processes the planet. And the reason he does that is because there's a celestial egg underneath and blah, blah, blah. Can we get off this? I do have
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was done talking about Galactus like 10 minutes ago, to be honest. Go ahead.
Sorry, the coffee is kicking in. Interesting thing about Fantastic Four to me is like a lot of the Marvel magic is in these idealized types, right? Like Tony Stark is idealized rich guy with gadgets type, Captain America idealized Patriot soldier type. The Fantastic Four is very much like an idealized family in this kind of white suburban coded way. Like that family is so nice. Nice couple. Nice, a cool uncle. They have a best friend. They live in a penthouse with all the pretty things. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like a super super ideal family that
But there's pathos
anyone in
underneath.
60s America. Uh, yes, there is pathos underneath, and I think it developed over time in the
Hmm.
stories. But I'm just saying, as contrast to a lot of the superhero stories, which touch on family, but they're generally about about exceptional loners. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I mean, there's family stuff in Shang-Chi. There's family stuff in blah 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 blah. What do I think? What?
Batman.
Well,
I think
right,
I think that the Batman family I think is more compelling than Loner Batman, but that's another
right. But
topic.
no. But that's a perfect contrast because like Batman is the archetypal. I have no family and am scarred.
Right.
Fantastic Four is like the tonal opposite of that. Do you know
Sure.
what I mean? They have a family and it's working great. So I wonder, and that is the vibe of the trailer. Again, the 60s idealized, oh, everything's great in America, television, yay, everyone's peppy and happy. This is a tonal contrast to a lot of the superhero myths. So I wonder how they deal with that, if that makes any sense. I wonder how they introduce that like family ideal. And again, also contrast with Superman is another sort of like idealized type, super like happy on top of the world kind of thing. I wonder how that
Yeah.
plays out in Fantastic Four.
Well,
That's my
that's another
question.
thing I think that's revealed in this trailer is that the Fantastic Four are not only known in this universe, but they're
Yeah,
celebrated.
yeah,
Like the girl has a little thing toy, and I actually like. I really like Eben Moss Bacharach's take on the thing in
yeah.
this. Michael Chiklis did his version. What was his name? Jamie Bell, I think, who was in the Josh Trash
Yes, I
version.
believe that was his name.
He was definitely like, I'm a monster. Like what I dig so far from what I've seen is that there was that one shot in the first trailer where he's like in the iconic trench coat, watching old footage of himself when he was human,
Hmm.
but he's still like he's happy go lucky. And that's the thing about Ben Grimm
Hmm.
that people I think forgot about when they made the other movies is that
Hmm.
Ben Grimm, even when he's the thing, is still like cheerful.
Yeah,
Like there are moments of sadness, but at the end of the day, he's still Uncle Ben.
yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. It's like a coping mechanism, like Spider-Man. Like he has that like witty patter, what the heck thing, and he likes clobbering things. It's a good. That's why he's such a fascinating character. It'll be interesting to me to see how the Invisible Woman thing plays out too, because I know, have you had enough of my long side rants yet, or do you want another
No,
one
I'm
about
all
the
I'm all here for it.
Invisible Woman? Invisible Woman, really fascinating character in the Marvel universe to me. Not only because she's super overpowered in the video games, and I like playing as her, but she's also one of the most super overpowered Marvel characters if you really get into all the stuff she does. She has that whole thing. She makes invisible solid objects, which she can telekinetically move at any speed. She's basically the most deadly creature ever created. She can make little invisible bubbles inside you that will blow up and kill you instantly. Doesn't do that, but anyway, her power set is very fascinating, and I'm not sure. I believe when the Fantastic Four started out, she probably was the least defined as a character because, gender things being how they were at the time, it was probably like she was just like the nice wife character who happens to turn out have the power to be invisible. Oh, there's a metaphor there. But anyway, over time, she became really developed, and also her power set became like crazy, crazy
She
over.
wasn't just turning invisible. She was
Right,
controlling like this whole spectrum of light or whatever.
right. So in the history of the Fantastic Four, I'm just saying like she's a character who has developed over the times. You know what I mean? Like her archetype has definitely developed as we've progressed as a society. So I think that's interesting too. But I'm not sure how she'll come across in the movie or what her role is. Because we know, just contrast. We know Reed's a genius. The Human Torch is a hothead. Ben Grimm is a tragic figure. What do we know immediately about Sue Storm? She's really capable and like nice, right? There's got to be something more than that.
We started with Pedro. Let's end here with Pedro. Like my thing with him, I love the guy, and he's in everything though. And there comes the point where like I said, this weekend was a perfect encapsulation. He was in The Last of Us. He was at Celebration, you know, hyping The Mandalorian, and then he was in this Fantastic Four trailer. And like, get that bag, Pedro. I'm happy about it. But it comes to a point where like they just cast him in everything. You know what I mean? Like I think he'll be great. I think if there's one thing he's good at, he's playing a father figure.
Uh-huh.
That's like his typecast, like Last of Us, Mandalorian,
Hmm.
Fantastic Four. He's like the archetypal like father figure now. But I'm glad he's not John Krasinski. Like we dodged a bullet there.
Mm.
But
Mm.
do you have any I don't know, like worry that
Pedro
Pedro will
Pas-
just bring his like I mean, I'm sure he'll be great, but will you be able to like watch Fantastic Four and not see Joel or Din Djarin?
I don't know. Pedro Pascal is a fascinating character to me for the reasons you described. He's ubiquitous, and I don't have a strong opinion about him, except I like him very much. Really liked him in Freaky Tales. That was
Right,
a
that's right. He was in Freaky Tales.
indie one where I thought he was particularly affecting. And I guess he's, like the other day, it's the ubiquitous actor problem. Like the other day, I
Mm,
proposed Screw, Mary Kill. Screw, Mary Kill, Pedro Pascal, Timothy Chalamet, or um, Benedict Cumberbatch. We don't have to play it right now. But my point is, he's sort of in the Benedict Cumberbatch thing of less like just going to be in lots of things, including a Marvel,
yeah.
uh, tentpole thing that I can probably make a career off of. And he's anyway. All this to say, I think he's fine. He's not my favorite. He was great in Freaky Tales. He is very
Does
reassuring.
he read as a read though?
No,
The-
no, he doesn't. John Krasinski read more as a read. So that's where his power of typecasting overwhelmed everything else. They were like, father role, we need Pedro Pascal for that.
right.
Did did we, or is that just like the
Because here's the thing,
easiest
like,
choice you could make?
because when I think of Reed Richards, I actually think of less of a father figure and more of like, and maybe this is just a result of like more recent interpretations of Reed Richards, but like an asshole, like arrogant prick.
Yeah, he's a weird genius, mad scientist, arrogant introvert. Yeah.
And that's where I don't like because in the Pedro Pascal assance of the last few years, I think one of his missteps was when he played Maxwell Lord,
Uh,
which is not. I mean, Maxwell Lord is not on the level of Reed Richards, but I think it's similar. They're both kind of smarmy. I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I don't think he played Maxwell Lord very well in Wonder Woman.
yeah.
You probably don't even remember his Maxwell Lord. That's how
That whole movie had serious problems on so many levels. That was one of them. I agree.
right. But you know what I mean. So that's where that like, and maybe their version of Reed is not the Illuminati asshole version of Reed.
Yeah,
Like Krasinski definitely like Krasinski. He's got a punchable face,
yeah.
and
He does smarmy. He sure
and
does
he, right,
that.
and
Yeah.
I think that's where Pedro is like he's too like he's too pure to be Reed Richards. I feel like you know what I
He
mean.
seems just a little too nice.
Yeah, because the gruff father figure with a heart of gold works as Din Djarin. I think it works as Joel from The Last of Us. I don't think like the whole like Reed Richards doesn't have a heart of gold. If anything, Reed Richards, like I said, is an arrogant prick.
No, you're right. I'm totally unsure about that. Also, again, I don't know what I'm rooting for Reed Richards as a character anyway. So I'm curious. I mean, he is very central to the Secret Wars in the way the comic played out, or the recent Hickman was. So, yeah, I don't know if he takes a big leadership role. Really don't know.
And to be fair to Pedro, I think there's still a part of me that wishes William Jackson Harper got the role. Because he still is my favorite. He was still my favorite for Reed Richards.
Well, in alternate universes.
I think I've said this on this podcast. I still feel like the Good Place cast should have just been the Fantastic Four.
Oh, sure.
Where Kristen Bell is Invisible Woman and Manny Jacinto is Human Torch. Because he throws Molotov cocktails.
Right, okay.
Instead of fireballs, he's throwing Molotov cocktails.
Oh, that's good.
And I guess Tahani is Ben Grimm. Because she's tall. I don't know.
She's tall. Totally. That would be great. That would be a great Fantastic Four.
Do you think their Victor Von Doom is RDJ, or is he going to be from a different universe? I hope it's not. People are speculating that the Doom of this universe is Tony Stark.
Look,
and I don't want that to happen.
You didn't want to get in the knots of the
right. Well, that's why I hope it doesn't happen.
I'm gonna say a big fat. I'll wait and see what happens. Don't super care.
Don't care.
You mean like does RDJ show up in the movie?
I hope not.
And will they both have mustaches? Reed Richards facing us, Victor Von Doom, or will they not both have mustaches?
Well, Reed already has a mustache, and there was a leaked set photo that I don't know how real it is of Robert Downey Jr. in the Doom costume with his face showing.
Yeah,
he's got like a full beard.
Okay, I mean, I wasn't caring before, but now that you bring it up, I'm kind of excited to see if they play out the fight sort of in the Secret Wars way, where Reed and Doom get in a hand-to-hand fight with Reed's stretchy powers, which was kind of funny looking in the comics. But imagine how funny it'll be in live action if it's Pedro Pascal stretching all over Robert Downey Jr.'s armored body. What are the outtakes like that gonna be like?
That's another thing that was revealed in the trailer. We did get to see a taste of the stretchy powers, and the stretchy powers CG has always been controversial because one of the reasons given for why Kamala Khan didn't have it in Ms. Marvel was that stretchy powers just don't. And of course, they're working with a TV budget. But again, Fantastic Four still shooting, so like the movie comes out in a couple months. Like they're probably also working on a similar schedule as a TV show for their CG. But do you worry about the stretchy CG? Because I know it has a tendency to look goofy on screen.
I don't. I'm not worried about the stretchy powers CG. I'm happy to see it. I was one of those people who was sad it wasn't Miss Marvel. If the Russo brothers can do one really good thing right, they could have them meet up in Secret Wars and Doomsday somehow, and Reed and Miss Marvel can have a stretchy power moment together. Maybe he can help her activate the stretchy part of her powers. For people who don't know what we're talking about, I don't even know what to say. His main power is he's stretchy. It's canon.
Yeah.
And he makes rolls himself into balls and rubber bands and stuff like that. Which again does not immediately read with Pedro Pascal's physical type. But whatever. It'll be hilarious when he's wrapped all over Robert Downey Jr. and spinning him like a top and like talking to him with his
head
nose,
sticking out.
Right, his nose bouncing up and down or something like that. It'll be hilarious. Russo Brothers, this is my request of you. Yeah.
I cannot wait. So that's, Fantastic Four it's definitely on my anticipated films list. We talked a little bit about Daredevil last episode, thinking it was over. There were like 2 episodes to go.
Yeah.
Those 2 episodes aired in the in-between time since our last podcast. I want to talk about Daredevil, but in particular, the last episode was about how I don't like cinematic universes.
Mhm.
And I will just say this at the top. With Daredevil, now that it firmly takes place in the MCU, and I think I brought this up last week, but it was even more stark with the events of the last 2 episodes of Daredevil.
Mm.
That I don't give a shit about the Avengers. Where the fuck is Spider-Man? Where is Luke Cage?
Where
Why are
is
these
Spider-Man?
people not reacting to the mayor, brutalizing their city? Now that we have the entire Born Again season in the rear view, because we were making, you know, assessments of it, having not finished it, unbeknownst to us. Now that it is over, I'm curious what your take on this version of Daredevil is, despite its jump from Netflix to Disney Plus and all of the turmoil that got it to where it ultimately ended up being.
I really enjoyed it. I thought the first part and the last part were the strongest parts. There's a little murky in the middle there. It's not as successful to me as a piece of art as the Netflix series were. There's a couple of things. Like you did get a sense it was appeasing the like people want a hard R gore thing a few times, and to me that is just like silly. Like, okay, I don't care. I don't care whether you see
A guy's
you
head
know,
gets smushed like
yeah,
Gallagher's
that was
watermelon.
that was too much too. That was definitely just like, let's do the goriest possible version of this. Did you need to? What audience is that serving? I don't know, but it was a lot of things just like, yeah, now we're really sure that we see Punisher stab the guy 3 times when once probably would have done it. Anyways, so there were like things like that, but sometimes it serves the thing because like the overarching metaphor is a devil in hell, and I like that, the evocations of that. Um, anyway, um, overall enjoyed it pretty much. Sorry, that's a wishy-washy thing to say. I don't know where the hell Spider-Man is during all this. I don't know how that fits or doesn't fit. You really wanted in the last episode when he's like, we need an army, spoiler, he says that,
Yeah.
to be like, oh wait, he's gonna call in like Luke Cage or somebody.
At least bring the Netflix guys back in, right?
Yeah, and that didn't happen yet. Maybe it'll happen later.
Mhm.
But that was what I was hoping would happen. Because they are up against quite a problem. And again, yeah, and just that's an overarching thing that I did enjoy. It does still reflect all our current problems in a very like way that hits home. It's like, what are we gonna do with this shit? He's got everything. He had it in the last Netflix series too. He's got everything again. What do we as
He being
people,
Wilson Fisk is what
eating
you're saying.
Wilson Fisk, the
Yeah.
kingpin? What do we as one guy who is A, good at punching people, but B, believes in the rule of law and somehow. How are we going to be able to get the rule of law to work this problem out, or are we? I think that's a very compelling question.
Well, yeah, I mean the socio-political allegories, they were, the writers were more prescient than they even probably thought they were going to be. Like when you had questions about the rule of law, you talked about last time, questions about integrity of access journalism, and
Yeah,
and I think what was even more stark in this episode or these last few episodes was, the staff around the mayor who probably had morals and had ideals, but had to make a choice. Do I want to remain moral and righteous and lose my status and lose my position, or do I, you know, trade in those morals for power,
yeah.
which I think his assistant does when she, you know, uh, turns in the commissioner essentially, which leads to his watermeloning
Oh
later in the
God,
episode.
poor guy. And by the way, don't you think that guy was Commissioner Gordon? Like,
Yeah,
he was the
they
most comics
basically
accurate
wrote
Commissioner
Commissioner
Gordon
Gordon,
than ever, and
the
that was
one
kind of
honest
interesting.
cop in New York City. Is Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't
that's
know why they called him. I mean, they called him. He's not a character from the comics,
no, they just
but
wanted to have the contrast,
they named him. I think I was his first name Jim. I'm pretty sure his name was Jim
something like
Gallo.
that,
It was
and
like
maybe
Commissioner Jim Gallo. It was like a
yeah.
few letters away from Jim Gordon.
Right. Yeah, they're very close. Yeah, and maybe he's in one of the Daredevil comics. I don't know. I haven't read every single one. But yeah, you kind of there are many questions raised by that. I did like the whole White Tiger thing. I thought that actor playing young Angela was great. I'm blanking on her name. And that was another very interesting aspect of the how to seek justice versus vigilantism versus rule of law stuff that makes it compelling. And I think if the actors are good, and they are generally good in Daredevil, they will keep making these compelling questions, and that's why I'm rooting for it. I know not everyone is rooting for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not rooting for it. I'm glad they're back. I think Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are excellent as Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. And it's nice to see them embrace the Netflix continuity, because, and I alluded to the turmoil. I think we talked a little bit about this last time. When they first announced Born Again, it was not supposed to be connected to Netflix at all.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the tonal shifts when Kingpin showed up in Echo and Hawkeye,
Mm-hmm.
and Daredevil showed up also in Echo and She-Hulk and Spider-Man. Actually, so
Mm-hmm.
Matt Murdock has already interacted with Peter Parker.
Right. Huh.
They were not necessarily playing the Netflix versions of those characters, and that was part of like the
Right.
controversy when they did show up. Like, why is Kingpin acting a little goofier than we saw him last? And why is Matt Murdock less filled with pathos as he was
Right.
in the last season of Daredevil?
Yes. He was rather jolly in his No Way Home
And
cameo.
She-Hulk especially, yeah.
Yeah, and in the She-Hulk, yes.
And then so like when they had actually shot, I think, half the season of Born Again before they went on strike, and then Kevin Feige kind of retooled, hired new showrunners. I think he hired the Punisher showrunners to come back and make it more connected to Netflix. They recast. We talked about this last week already, so I don't need to go over again. But they recast Vanessa. They brought back the original actress. They brought back Foggy and Karen. And I think my only issue with the season is that, and this was already starting to show before the last two episodes, but it became even more apparent in those final two episodes, like the seams of that whole middle stuff with like White Tiger and Muse. That was the Disney show. It was going to be like standalone episodes, kind of like legal drama.
Yeah.
Because there was like that bottle episode with Kamala Khan's dad.
Yeah.
That was a great episode. I thought that was a really fun episode.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you about that one.
I mean, I
Standalone
think
bank
Kamala
episode.
Khan's dad was a little annoying because it was like every 5 minutes he was mentioning Ms. Marvel, and it was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
But I like
shadows,
I like bottle episodes, and it was like
Okay.
it felt the most television.
Okay.
Let's put our hero in an interesting situation, and he can't
Right.
get out of.
No, that's interesting because I felt it was disjointed, but that speaks
It
to
was
what you're
totally
saying.
disjointed, but that's
It
the
was-
point. It was very
yeah.
episodic originally. It wasn't serial.
Right.
The idea.
And that's another way they could have gone. I'm nostalgic or whatever. I treasure the parts where they went back and did. I think it was worth it to do that. That bottle episode, cool, but I don't know, that one was weird to me. Like, did he need to go back in the bank really to like protect any lives, or is he just kind of doing it like to thrill kill, like
Yeah.
just get off?
Well,
of it?
I mean, that was the overarching thing, because that was what led up to him finally, eventually, deciding to be Daredevil again.
Okay.
And so like, this was recently revealed too. I think the directors had come out and said like the first episode, the one we talked about in our last podcast, all the Bullseye Foggy stuff, that was all new. That was not originally part of the episode. The original opening of episode 1 was just Daredevil. Like, he's Daredevil, takes off his helmet and decides, I'm not going to be Daredevil anymore. And like Foggy or Karen, or maybe both, their deaths were off screen.
Wow.
So we didn't know who they were. We didn't know if they were the same Foggy and Karen, but he gives up being Daredevil in the very opening, and then it cuts to him being high-powered lawyer Matt Murdock.
Okay. Well, yeah, now see, here's where I'm not really sure what you're asking, because it sounds like it is messy with the lore stuff. All that stuff makes it inconsistent, and the level to which there are other Marvel things involved is inconsistent, but I don't give a fuck because I like that Netflix series. So, so like, are you saying you want Spider-Man to be around, or you want the?
Well, no, I mean, I think I would have been happy if they kept the Netflix continuity separate from the rest of the MCU. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need Daredevil to interact with Spider-Man. I don't need, Kingpin to be Spider-Man's villain. 'Cause apparently, that's another thing that was recently revealed. Vincent D'Onofrio was giving a interview to a podcast where he basically, like, one of the reasons he can't actually show up in movies, like there's some weird legal red tape that prevents the character of
okay.
Kingpin showing up
Oh,
in a
okay.
live action film. So like
Oh,
he can't be in the movies. So I
oh,
think it's going to be interesting because we're a couple days away from Thunderbolts opening, and from the trailers it looks like a good portion of that film takes place in New York City, where there is clearly a non-vigilante, anti-vigilante task force that will not allow vigilantes,
right.
even though
Okay.
Val de Fontaine, whatever the fuck her name is set up in Avengers Tower inside New York City, which we don't see. Like every time
Yeah.
they cut to a skyline of New York, there's no Avengers Tower.
Yeah. And by the way, like a superpowered dude comes and starts annihilating people with his magic, like
Right.
black hole powers. But yeah, no, that's just another thing that happens in a Kingpin's New York on a day, and then they, whatever. And then I
I
don't
guess.
know. I don't know. Also, I was gonna say, like, they keep jumping in time, so we don't really know what time it happens, except that
Mm.
they mentioned Miss Marvel, so it's, she's already exists.
And she's on the West Coast, like recruiting the West Coast Avengers, it sounds like. Is that what she's
This could be several years ago. Remember, sometimes they tell in disjointed time.
Right, right.
And yes, no, it is not exactly consistent because of Angela Del Toro was an adult and Jessica Jones, and she's a
Right?
kid.
I was gonna say that was another thing. Didn't they mention was
They
she a
mentioned her,
character?
but she didn't really
She never
appear.
showed up. They just mentioned her.
So,
She was a
so
detective.
that's again, that's a no prize. That's
Yeah. Yeah. You gave me a couple no prizes last
You
episode.
you definitely get a few no prizes if you figure out, on what day Sentry attacks versus what day, Daredevil
I'm
is
just
like
saying that, like,
fighting
that's a
Muse.
problem with cinematic universes.
That
It
is a
opens a
problem with
bunch of
cinematic
questions that
universes.
don't need to be there.
Yeah, for which you get a no prize.
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm more, I guess the question I was getting at, or the point I was trying to make, is that because they were trying to retrofit what they had already created into, which was supposed to be separate, right? Like the MCU and the Netflix universes were not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway through deciding, actually, we were going to bring in the Netflix continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Those seems, I think, like was unnecessary. Like I'm glad they're connecting to the Netflix. Then you don't need to connect it to the MCU. I think pick a lane is my point.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to, it's the Superman Returns problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're either rebooting or you're continuing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do both. You can't
Yeah.
continue and reboot at the same time.
Yeah, Returns was kind of half-assed mishmashy in that way.
Right. Like either fully commit to being in the MCU or fully commit to just being your own thing. And I think that's the pressure of, modern comic book media, expectations.
Yeah,
The
true.
whole fear of a cinematic universe is that you got to figure out how to make those things connect. And sometimes the storytelling suffers.
Sometimes. But yeah, it's a problem that's being discovered and invented on the fly again, and we've learned to have fear of these things when 5 years ago we were really excited to have cinematic universes. Anyway, I don't know. I feel your pain. I think the story works better if it stays very grounded in that Daredevil's the one guy up against the whole system. I just think the story works better that way. You know, it is funny, like in the comics, they always make passing mention, oh, the Fantastic Four is out of town. That's why you're the only guy for this. Oh, everybody's out of town for some reason. Um, they're not even making that passing mention, but let's just say for the purposes of this, everyone else is out of town for some reason. And Daredevil's
Well,
the
I
only-
mean, and even on Netflix, it's not like it was completely 100% grounded. Like there was a whole season dedicated to the Hand and how they resurrected people. So like, it's not
Yeah.
really like everything
they
is
had magic
street
ninjas.
level.
They had magic ninjas in Daredevil Born Again 1 and Daredevil Born Again. They haven't yet had magic ninjas.
He wasn't born again in the original. He was only born again now. He was.
He's born.
He was.
But he's,
What are you before you're born again? I don't know. I don't know.
this
I
this
know
is
it's
a weird day
Easter,
to be
but
asking this. Yeah,
No,
so
it's Easter
we're-
Monday. I have no
weird day to
idea
get
what
into
it-
this.
like
That's
you,
okay.
You
but-
don't believe that zombie Jesus is real? Is that what the? I don't know.
Out of respect for Matt Murdock's conflicted Catholicism, don't have to explore that whole issue.
Yeah, R.I.P. Pope Francis.
But
Anyway.
yes, indeed. But I don't know. White Tiger did have a magic amulet, which they didn't talk about at all. So
They mentioned it.
they mentioned it. I'm just saying, so they allow that magic things happening. There's that door opened.
They
I'm
did tease. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I'm looking forward to the next one.
Well, speaking of the next one, what they teased at the post credits sequence was the next one is actually Punisher. That John Bernthal will return in a Punisher special. I think they're going the whatchamacallit, the Werewolf by Night route, where it's not a series, but it's not a movie.
Okay.
It'll just be like a one-off Punisher thing.
Okay, I didn't realize that, but cool.
Are we fans of the Punisher, the live action John Bernthal Punisher? Do we like? I like John Bernthal. I'm not sure I'm 100% sold on his Punisher.
Well, I liked his scenes a lot. I like John Bernthal as the character. I think he finds like a lot of dimensions in the story that you might not ordinarily find in a guy whose main thing is mass murdering people. I think he does a great job. I think the scenes with Matt and the Punisher are pretty well written, like juicy scenes. I liked season 1 of Punisher on Netflix World a lot. I don't know if I like the following ones that much, but yeah, no, I'm a Bernthal bro as far as that goes.
Wait, wasn't Evan Moss-Bachrach in Punisher season 1? He was the
yeah, he was the computer nerd who goes by Microchip. He's Punisher's guy in the chair.
You're right.
And yeah, he was. And
so we can add him to the multiple Marvel roles, I guess.
He has multiple Marvel roles. I'm sure he's really proud of that. But no, he's a great actor. He sells it. He makes the whole thing seem real. Yeah. And yeah, probably so won't see him again unless Microchip
or Ben Grimm is a time variant of Microchip.
Yeah, I'm sure Punisher would love that.
The way Tony Stark and
become the Punisher, like start talking about the TV invariants, he's opening up a full clip on whoever is saying that nonsense. Like, get the fuck out of here with this. I just live to shoot people. Don't tell me you're like a Rocky mutation now. Anyways. Sorry, that was a bunch of divergences.
Yeah, I don't know. I just realized when you mentioned season 1 of Punisher, I was like, wait, Evan Moss-Bachrach was
he was there, and that was great. It was
really good. He was really good as a Microchip.
And
I just like to your point though about like the ultra violence. I just felt like it was due a big melee fight with Daredevil and Punisher, but I don't know how it just felt a little went on a little too long. It was a little overindulgent. Like. It didn't make sense. Like the fight itself didn't really make sense because, like, I don't know. The cops were there to like kill Daredevil.
Yeah.
They didn't. The cops don't know Daredevil and Matt Murdock are one and the same. Kingpin does, but the cops don't. Couldn't like if Frank's job was just to get Matt to safety, couldn't he have just like left? did Matt Murdock have to put the suit on and fight people?
Oh my gosh, Keith, are you suggesting that a fight in a superhero show was contrived, possibly?
Unnecessary.
Jeez, what are we gonna do with the whole genre? Yeah, no, I thought the bank heist episode was more contrived on that point, but yeah, no, he sends the cops he's got under his thumb as this secret police task force just to kill Matt Murdock or whoever. They don't care. They're just in there to kill him. Whoops, there's the Punisher there. Whoops, we all get killed.
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, and that whole thing was contrived, and it was clearly shoehorned in there because they didn't have enough superhero fight scenes. That was a major complaint of the show. It just didn't have enough superhero stuff. And yeah, it was a little forced. And also just like it wasn't quite as cool as the action sequences in the old Netflix Daredevil series, which if you go back, they were incredibly well constructed and like exciting on a cinematic level. And the ones they had in this Daredevil series were pretty good, just not as good. So because they relied on the trick of like, we'll just show more blood and gore rather than like an interesting fight choreography sequence.
I think cinematographically, is that a word?
In Mr. Cerebro too,
cinematically.
but we know what you're saying.
Yeah,
Cinematically also works.
yeah, cinematically, cinematography, whatever.
Yeah.
I think the show on Netflix looked way better than the show on Disney Plus. Like just from you know camera placement to lighting to choreography. I think there was something wanting
Yeah.
for me with this version of Daredevil which is interesting, right? Because to your point, on Disney, he can be more superhero-y. He's doing more of the
It could be.
swinging and the
Yeah.
acrobatics, whereas like he was just brute force trauma in the
Yeah, yeah.
Netflix. But but on the one hand, you do lose some of even that opening fight with Bullseye in the first episode. Like got a
Mm.
lot of praise. They were trying to ape the whole oneer,
Yeah.
where they just. But to me, it just didn't have the same impact
It
as
wasn't
like the
quite as
iconic
awesome.
hallway fight.
But it was a good try. I mean, like, I guess I'm being like an apologist fan for this series for various reasons. But yeah, uh, like, yeah, I agree with all that. But they do good filmmaking things in uh, this Daredevil board again, especially with editing. And again, I know you see the seams, but still, they did tricks with editing, which are, I'm gonna say, above and beyond some other Marvel projects.
And I think it's a necessity, right? Because they had to weave together two different versions of the same show. The
Yeah,
editing had to be because I will say, like, as much as I complain about the seams showing, like, it's still it's only because I know of the uh turmoil behind the scenes.
right.
Like I think if you're unaware of all of that, you don't look for it. I
Yeah,
think
I
if there's
wasn't looking.
anything, there's like tonal shifts maybe that you're like, that seems a little jarring. It felt one way, now it feels another.
Yeah. Yeah, those were apparent whether or not you read the internet too much or not. But there was, but overall, way into it, um, want to
Yeah.
see how it plays out.
So anyway, this is a Marvel heavy episode, but we'll end it on that. Daredevil, Born Again, all episodes streaming on Disney Plus if you want to watch them. And we're, like I said, a week out from Thunderbolts.
Andor's coming
And
out this week, I believe,
yep,
season two.
a week from now, or a week and a half from now, next Friday, not this
Oh,
Friday.
really? I thought it was, okay, I don't know what day it is. Doesn't matter. Okay, go on.
And then Fantastic Four in July. Um, anything? Well, I was going to ask you if there's anything you're looking forward to as we wrap up. I don't know if there's any. I know Andor, the first three episodes come out tomorrow.
Yeah. Wait. Do we just have a time blip? Is Andor coming out tomorrow or is it
Andor's
not?
coming out tomorrow.
That's what I thought I said, and then you said it was coming out
Oh
some other time.
no, I said Thunderbolts is coming
Oh,
out next
okay.
week. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say Andor when I said Thunderbolts is coming out next week?
Yeah, how do we even keep track of all this stuff?
Oh,
Yeah, it's funny. And by the way, as a side note, is it funny that there's an actual movie called The Mandalorian and Grogu? How do we get to that point?
I don't
But
know. I
that's
think
a
that's
sentence
such a
that people are gonna
shitty
say.
title. They couldn't come up with anything other than the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Two really non-words. I'm just gonna say that is how much Star Wars has permeated our culture.
At the very
Uh,
least, the Mandalorian Rise of Grogu. I mean, that's if you're going
something
to be
like that.
cliche, you might as well
Yeah.
go full on.
Or get a verses in there, even though I know they're not verses. Anyway,
The biggest Star Wars celebration announcement probably is that Sean Levy's doing a Star Wars movie with what's his face,
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan
Oh yeah,
Gosling.
funny you should say that because that is something I'm looking forward to in the sense of this isn't going to happen, but like, us
Like
indie
the movie
film.
isn't going to happen because Star Wars announces movies and they don't happen.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean like Sean Levy, if you're interesting, I think what we all really want is a movie like Drive, which Ryan Gosling was in, except it's a starfighter. If you know the somewhat indie film Drive with Ryan Gosling as the scorpion-clad getaway expert race car driver guy, you know it's a really fucking awesome movie. And if it was somehow transplanted to the Star Wars universe, be fucking great. I'm just saying, I don't think that angle will actually happen, but that would be something I look forward to.
Yeah,
Have you
what
seen
I don't,
Drive?
I
Not
trust
you.
Ryan Gosling. Who I don't trust is Sean Levy.
Yeah, well,
Is
as long as he doesn't make it like yeah, like Starfighter versus, Constitution class starship or something. Some kind of gratuitous. universe crossing. But
I mean, at least it's Ryan Gosling and not Ryan Reynolds. There's a world in which Sean Levy brings back Ryan Reynolds in a Star Wars movie, and that would be just hell on earth. Not a Ryan Reynolds fan over here.
It's okay. Wait. I understand. He's got fans. He's doing okay. Yeah.
So yeah, the Star Wars. You actually, are you back on the Star Wars boat?
Oh.
Did you ever? I guess you never really hopped off the Star Wars train, right?
Oh,
Started
I
mixing
know.
my mouth.
I do. I mean, I've hopped off in the sense I don't care about most of the TV series that much, and I don't super care about Mandalorian Grogu coming out. But Andor season 2, really looking forward to it because Andor season 1 was super well written and executed by Tony Gilroy, which is fucking awesome. We'll see what happens. They're really marketing, pushing the sort of rebellion revolution aspect, which is another thing we're wondering if how that, does or doesn't resonate with current events. But I know I feel like Disney's doing this sort of like, oh, like testing the waters things. We're seeing how much we can toe the line and also sort of appeal to everyone's rebellious instinct. Anyway, that forget for another day remains to be seen. We'll see how that plays out.
Well, if season 1 is any indication, season 2 will be full steam ahead on the whole revolution front, since it's supposed to lead right into Rogue One. So
Yeah.
you can't avoid rebellion when that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Kind of slow moving
that is the
fascist
whole point.
empire. Because I mean the one thing, and I know you talked about this when we covered Andor a couple years ago, is like the interesting thing about the empire in the show is that like the banality of evil and how the Deidre character and the Krillic's character become, they're not necessarily signing up for fascism, but
Yeah.
they get it nonetheless, right? And I think we'll probably get more of that this season too. So.
Yeah, I think we will.
Anyway, that's Hard NOC Life for this week. Dominic, how can people find you and your work on the internet?
Oh, I'm Dominic Ma, Dama, DOMMAH on the social medias, and I have a indie music project called 12 Valentines, which is somewhat superhero comic related, which you can find at Bandcamp or YouTube Music or any of the music places.
I am Keith Chow. You can find me you can't really find me on the internet. I don't post anymore. But if you want to look me up, I am The Real Chow on Blue Sky, Twitter. And if you want to follow the Nerds of Color, it's at the Nerds of Color on all social media platforms. We didn't talk about the new Superman footage, but if you're interested in my thoughts on DC movies, you can check out my other podcast, DC Multicast. All episodes from season 2 are now available on anywhere you get podcasts. Subscribe at hardknockmedia.com. And that's it for this week of Hard NOC Life. Until next time.
I didn't want you to give me one takeaway from the Superman footage thing because I didn't watch it all. I wanted you to spoil it.
Well, it was great.
Okay. That's a good takeaway.
Those robots from the sneak peek a couple weeks ago, practical, not
Practical.
CGI.
It's great.
So there you go.
The CGI still sucks though, even though because they're practical. That sucks.
They don't suck.
Sorry, I'm making a stupid joke.
We're not the chick of kind, more like the people